Greetings, my friends. Reformed Stoic here, back with another video. Don't worry, I don't plan on wearing this hat in every video. I have some new clippers coming, and I will be shaving my head, and we will just kind of go back to the shaved head look. So, anyway, tonight's video is about friendship. And this isn't necessarily what inspired making this video, but I am watching through Friends again since Matthew Perry has passed. And I guess maybe subliminally, that's kind of what got me thinking on the topic of friends and friendship. So let's discuss it. What is it that makes a friendship? Well, frankly, I feel like one of the best way to learn things is through experience. And while I do have a lot of experience having friends, I feel like my experiences maybe haven't been so great, because at this point I can honestly tell you that I have not successfully built any lifelong lasting friendships. I believe right out the gate, part of what makes a friendship valuable is that it is deep, that someone is in your corner and has your side, and when things get tough for you, those people are giving you the benefit of the doubt, and they are, they're going to give you a fair shot. So when accusations start coming out and there's rumors and you're going through something like kind of what I'm going through right now, they're not going to be quick to listen to gossip and to believe lies. So I wanted to make this probably a short video because I do feel like I haven't had a lot of experience with a friend that would qualify as a lifelong friend. However, I do have my own idealization, and I'll just let you know how I think that friendship should be. First and foremost, going to childhood, I believe we would likely all agree that having strong friendships is an important part of growing up. But I would go as far as to say that your friendships as a child, as a young adult, as a youth overall, should mainly be in the context of adult, supervised, constructive activities. So friendships in school, in sports, in extracurricular school activities, and any sort of like play dates and playtime outside of that context should likely be primarily supervised by adults. So if we're talking like birthday party activities, I don't believe that your kids should be protected from the real world, so to speak. There are going to be instances of children and young developing teenagers and adults being in an unsupervised peer type setting. I can just tell you that in my experience, that was just about all of my social experience with friends. It was always unsupervised kids doing God knows what in the absence of any sort of adult or authority figures. Now, I think that, like I just said, this is something that's going to happen. You can't save your kids from this ever happening. But I believe that in my life, it should have happened way less. Like, I couldn't even really give you a fraction. I mean, a good start would be like a quarter of as much time between the ages of being born and 18 that I spent unsupervised with my peers. That should have been very minimized. And the kind of people that your kid spends time alone with should be vetted. You should be thinking, are these people that I want to be alone with my kids for long periods of time? And I think that the first qualificants, we're being really wordy right now, the people that should be first up to bat having that alone time with your kids would be people that they are in sports with, people they are in extracurricular activities with. And in my experience, the closest thing I had to that was music. So I played in bands, I played in school music programs, I took part in state solo and ensemble competition, and my friend group, especially my freshman and sophomore year of high school, was people that I had music classes with. So we would spend time listening to music together. This one guy drove me to school, and we'd be jamming metal CDs or working on our solos together. We had like chamber ensemble for a 0 hour my sophomore year, I believe, and we actually had a lot of unsupervised time in that class where we would be allowed to, I'd take my practice pad or a snare drum and go into a practice room and work on my solo. So basically, guys, I think the meat of what I have to offer on this topic has been said. The most important figures in a young, developing child, teenager, young adult's life should be adult role models. The majority of feedback on this person should be coming from priests and parents and, in a perfect world, teachers. I have some critiques of how, I don't know. I've had some not so great experience with teachers, to be honest with you, but private instructors, teachers, parents, people in, chaperones and people in charge of sports, these people should have the biggest effect on the children. And first and foremost, parents should be responsible for what is going into their kids' heads and how they are developing. Friends should be an extension of this. So I'm describing something that maybe somebody would see as kind of like an authoritarian view, and it's sad that it would be seen that way. And I can tell you, I'm familiar with a lot of people who were my peers growing up who had a lifestyle that was a lot like this. I would consider myself a latchkey kid, and I just know from experience that when you're in this peer group setting and there's no structure or adult supervision, that is what I like to call the Lord of the Flies. That is the way of the Lord of the Flies. And I would go as far as to say is that's not even really a metaphor. That is more just directly what that is. Have you read Lord of the Flies? It's a bunch of unsupervised children making the rules and doing things as they see fit. And these kind of natural, chaotic, false authority figures among the children floating to the top from sheer dominance and worldly ways. And the kind of things that those kids were doing in Lord of the Flies is very similar to what will likely come out of a sort of unsupervised hierarchy of peers when there's lots and lots and lots and lots of unsupervised child time. Lord of the Flies. So, friendship. What makes a good friend? All of that aside. So within the context of everything I've said, a friend is someone that you share positive developmental experiences with. You are going through similar struggles. You have similar goals. And you are ultimately sharing in victory together. You are sharing in growth together. So, you have reasons to want each other to win. If you're on the same sports team, then that's definitely what's going to happen. And when you win together. When you lose and get over it together. What I have seen from my personal experience in these kind of Lord of the Flies unsupervised peer groups is that the group starts to plot against other people in the group. And I will say that I actually see a lot of these themes in the show Friends, especially when it comes to like relationships. You know, there's 3 guys and 3 girls and they're friends, but there's these different scenarios that arise where, you know, like Rachel has a crush on Ross, but he's dating somebody else at the time, so she gives bad advice to Ross as a means of trying to set him up to fail for her own selfish reasons. This kind of stuff happens in these Lord of the Flies type peer groups with no supervision or guiding goal. You know, a lot of worldly morals and worldly ways grow out of these unsupervised peer groups. And in the scenario that I grew up in, where I took part in these unsupervised peer groups as a child, this continued on with the same friends, okay? Different people came in and out, but there was a core group of friends that were a part of this group going all the way back to 6th and 7th grade. And this group dynamic would continue all the way through middle school and high school and even into my young adult years. And I can tell you that eventually these friendships fizzled out. Well, you develop this kind of a false hierarchy led by a false authority decided by complete, unguided, youthful relativism and chaos. And when this goes on for years, you develop this kind of, maybe a bit dramatic here, like shadow kingdom. It's like this new nation or this new land governed by people who are not fit to rule and who are not put in positions of power through just or righteous ways. It is chaos, it is unshaped, it is not guided by church or morals or adults or any sort of authority. And I can tell you also from experience that these kind of unsupervised peer groups are everywhere. It is the model that is set on television, even in like kids shows like Hey Arnold, and I mean even the Rugrats. You look at the Rugrats and you have a group of literal babies in an unsupervised peer group. How does every episode go? Almost with no exception. The parents leave the kids alone in their little crib, whatever, sectioned off area, and these literal babies go on an adventure without any adult supervision every single time. And then you look at Doug, lots of unsupervised time with Doug and Skeeter. You go to Hey Arnold, all of these kids are always hoodluming around with no adult supervision. Television irresponsibly sets this as the social norm. And I am really going out on a limb here and saying that, in my experience, this is a terrible thing. This ultimately does not lead to lifelong lasting friendships. This does not lead to building a child's self-esteem or building their skills. It does not lead to positive habits and a constructive way of life. It is ultimately toxic. Why is it toxic? Because children are not fit to structure activities or really decide much of anything. Like, this is a lot of this shadow kingdom of children deciding how things should be, who's in the right, who's in the wrong, what makes sense, and what doesn't. It's all too common. I think it has become kind of a way of life at least in the United States. So I will leave you with a message to parents. You should know what your kids are doing. You should know who your kids are hanging out with. This isn't about raining down an authoritarian hammer on your kids. This is about a genuine desire for things to go well in your child's development. Because I can tell you that these unsupervised Lord of the Rings, or Lord of the Flies type shadow kingdoms, as I have deemed them, it leads way to drugs, bad habits, abuse, trauma, and what's this word I want to use here? Developmentally stunted human being. And a lot of what I've been doing, I would say in these last few years in my personal life, is understanding that countless hours of my life have been spent around people who were not fit to judge me, teach me, or guide me in any way, shape, or form. You should probably realize this about yourself, and if you're a parent, you should realize this about your kids and do something about it. Like, let kids know that you're there for them, and make sure not to rain down them on an authoritarian manner, and just be a parent. So that's what I have to say for you guys right now. I hope this message finds you well, and I'll see you next time. God bless. I'm out.